Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to another Preseason 8 League of Legends Champion Guide. Today I'll be covering top lane Poppy, Keeper of the Hammer.
I'm no hero, just a yordle with a hammer.
Alright, so let's start off this guide as per usual with the pros and the cons. So of course off the top, Poppy is a very tanky champion and her ultimate can also make fights uneven. She can knock out multiple targets in a team fight and give your team a big advantage. She's got some really great early burst damage, and she's great at all stages of the game. You have some extremely strong crowd control as long as you can knock people into walls, and this also gives you some pretty solid roams. Line up your target against a wall, stun them into it, and follow up with all of that burst damage. Now Poppy, however, has absolutely no built-in sustain. That means in those really long drawn-out trades, you're usually not going to come out on top. You really rely on your burst damage. Now this of course means you also have to go all in for your damage as well. When you're using your abilities to engage into an enemy champion, you have to keep in mind you don't have anything to get you out of that situation if it does turn dire. You can also be rather easily kited because your E ability does have a pretty decent cooldown, and your ultimate can also save your enemies if used improperly. Make sure you're using it to either finish off a low health enemy or to get somebody out of the fight that you don't want there. For my runes, I like to go for Resolve and Sorcery, grabbing Grasp of the Undying as my keystone. This will make your next attack do some bonus magic damage and also heal you, which gives some Poppy some much needed sustain and extra damage in the top lane. I then like to go for Demolish so I can actually take down towers. She's not the best split pusher out there, and then I go for Conditioning for that increased resistances. Then to get just a little bit of extra sustain yet again, I like to go for Second Wind so I get some health back whenever I'm damaged. I then go for Nullifying Orb in the sorcery side so I get a magic shield whenever I'm taken low by magic damage. Then I finish it off with Scorch, so whenever I throw my shield at an enemy champion, they will be burned. Some people do prefer going for precision and getting things like Triumph. That is a really solid option as well, but I definitely prefer Sorcery. For your summoner spells, I'd recommend always taking Flash and Teleport. Flash is required on Poppy because she doesn't have a ton of mobility and it can save your life over and over again in a single game. It's also great when used offensively so you can get an angle on an enemy champion and shove them into a wall with your heroic charge and then follow up with your burst. You'll then also want to take Teleport so you can sit in the top lane split pushing and still make it to team fights and objectives. Now Poppy also does have some really solid roams, so Teleport ganks are also a really solid option. Take Teleport so you can move around the map as required. Now let's kick off your abilities by looking at your passive, Iron Ambassador, which gives you a source of range damage and can also give you a shield. Poppy periodically throws her buckler with her next basic attack, which then falls near her target where it remains for up to 4 seconds. If the buckler kills its target, it bounces back to Poppy automatically. Enemies can step on the buckler to destroy it. The buckler grants 425 range and 10 to 180 based on level bonus magic damage. When Poppy picks up the buckler, she shields herself for between 15 and 20% maximum health for 3 seconds. So this is a really solid passive because it gives you a source of range damage, which is great for harassing the enemy champion or last hitting. It deals some bonus magic damage as well, so if you combine it with a Scorch, the poke damage is actually pretty good on this ability. Of course, unless you're last hitting with this ability, you will have to go pick it up because it gives you a really solid shield, which is great in trades, and you would want to engage onto the enemy champion once you do get that shield. Your Q ability is Hammer Shock, which does a nice chunk of damage in a small AoE and also slows the target. When activated, Poppy smashes the ground in front of her, dealing physical damage to all enemies hit. The impacted ground becomes unstable, slowing enemies standing on it before erupting after 1 second, dealing the same physical damage to all enemies hit. So this is a really strong ability because if both portions hit, it will do 160% AD damage and 16% of the target's maximum health as well, which is pretty damn huge. It also has a scaling slow of between 20 and 40%, making it even stronger. Since this is a small AoE, most champions will be able to move out of the second portion of damage, so you want to try to stun the target against a wall with your E ability before using this so they have no choice but to take both portions of damage. This ability does also have a 430 range, so if you are losing the lane, you can use this ability to help you last hit from range as well. Your W is Steadfast Presence, which gives you some bonus defensives, some nice movement speed, and knocks down people that dash inside it. Passively, Poppy's total armor and total magic resistance are both increased by 15%, doubled to 30% when she falls below 40% maximum health. When activated, Poppy gains bonus movement speed for 2.5 seconds and generates a barrier around her for the duration, causing all enemies who dash within to be knocked down and dealt magic damage. So this here is a fairly strong ability because of course you get passively more armor and magic resist, which will be awesome throughout the lane phase and team fights, and the bonus movement speed is a great way to help you engage onto an enemy team. The better part, however, is the fact that you can knock down people that try to dash onto you. If you position yourself on top of your AD carry or something else squishy, if Jax tries to jump onto them, you can activate this ability, knock them down, and do a bunch of damage. Other than that, you can use this ability to get to lane a little bit quicker or roam as well. Your E ability has Heroic Charge, which is your primary engaging tool that can stun the enemy and can even be used as an escape. When activated, Poppy dashes to the target enemy, dealing them physical damage and carrying them along with her up to 300 units. If they collide with terrain, she deals the same physical damage again and stuns them. So this of course is a really strong ability, especially if you can stun people against terrain, because it will allow you to get off your Q ability's damage rather easily. It will also have a 100% bonus AD ratio as long as you do this as well. So primarily of course you're going to be using this to engage onto the enemy, especially against terrain, but it is also a great escape as well as long as enemy minions are nearby. This can be used on enemy minions as well as jungle camps, so if you do need to escape, you can always use it for that purposes as well. Your ultimate is Keeper's Verdict, which does a nice chunk of damage and can also be used to knock people out of a team fight. On first cast, Poppy channels up to 4 seconds and slows herself by 15% for the duration. Keeper's Verdict's cooldown is set to 30 seconds if its channel is cancelled. On second cast, Poppy smashes the ground, sending out a shockwave that travels in the target direction. When it hits an enemy champion, a massive hammer erupts, dealing physical damage to all enemies around it. Enemies impacted by the hammer are knocked back an incredible distance towards their fountain. So this is a pretty solid ability because it has a 90% bonus AD ratio and it can do some pretty significant damage to finish off a target. Of course, the better part of the ability though is to knock somebody out of a team fight, or if somebody's trying to gank you so you can increase your survivability. Either knock away the jungler and try to 1v1 the top laner, or in a team fight try to knock out a few enemies so you can have a big advantage in that team fight. For your skill order, you first want to put a point to your ultimate whenever you can at 6, 11, and 16. Then focus on maxing your Q ability first because it is your main source of damage in your burst combo and of course is great for last hitting as well. Then you want to focus on maxing your E ability second because it's really solid burst damage as well and it does have a scaling stun duration. That of course means you'll have to save your W ability for last, but make sure you take a point in it at level 3 because it's really solid resistances and armor and of course is great for knocking down champions and the bonus movement speed. In the lane phase, you want to try and throw your Iron Ambassador at the enemy as much as you can to poke them. Make sure you pick up the shield as well because it's great for trading with the enemy. In a hard matchup, try using your Hammer Shock to farm from a distance so you don't take a ton of damage whenever you try to last hit those minions. If you see an opportunity, smash the enemy into a wall with your Heroic Charge to stun them and then follow up with your Hammer Shock so they take both portions of damage. This will get a huge chunk of free damage onto the enemy champion and then you can disengage afterwards and rinse and repeat. Of course, throughout the lane phase, you'll want to keep your lane warded as much as possible and watch for teleport gank opportunities. She is a really solid roamer. In teamfights, you'll want to look for good picks on the enemy carries. Wait until they're near some terrain and then Heroic Charge them into it. This will make them take a ton of damage when you add your Hammer Shock, and you and your team should be able to easily delete them. You'll also want to be looking for opportunities to use your Keeper's Verdict. Try and split up the enemy team if possible so you can deal with half of their team at a time. If the enemy has some strong assassins, then you may want to hang out with your carries and peel for them. Use both your Heroic Charge and the knockdown from your Steadfast Presence to peel for your allies. Now let's look at some of your hard matchups, and first up is Kayle. Now Kayle's going to be a really hard matchup for you because she'll activate her E ability and just destroy you with auto attacks. She also has the slow from her Q ability and the movement speed from her W to easily kite you at the same time. Then finally, if you do manage to get on Kayle and start to burst her, she has her ultimate to completely stop her from dying. This lane is going to be very hard for you, so play very passively and pick up whatever farm you can. Next is another really hard range matchup, Teemo. He yet again is going to be auto attacking you all lane long and it's going to be pretty much impossible for you to deal with. He is very squishy however, so be patient and wait for opportunities to Heroic Charge him into a wall and follow up with your burst damage. That's pretty much how you'll want to play this matchup. Be very safe and careful, pick up whatever farm you can, and when you see your opportunity, go for all lanes. And for the next one, we've got Singed. Singed is going to be pretty hard for you because since you don't have a ton of mobility, it's going to be very hard for you to stick onto him. He's going to be able to activate his poison trail and usually be able to outtrade you if you just try to run and chase him. Therefore, try to be a little bit more passive, just pick up whatever farm you can and then go for all ins whenever your jungler comes near him and you can stun him into a wall. And for the last hard matchup here, I've got Gangplank. Gangplank's going to be pretty annoying for you because even if you can Heroic Charge him into a wall, he's just going to activate his W, stop the stun, and run out of your Q ability. He's then going to be using his barrels to last hit as much as possible and also deal damage to you at the same time since it negates a lot of your armor. Against him, you're going to have to build as much armor as possible and just try to avoid him in team fights, get onto those squishier targets that can't break your stun combo. Alright, now let's finish this off with your item build, which starts with either a Doran Shield Health Potion and a Warding Totem, or if you want a bit of extra sustain, a Corrupting Potion and a Warding Totem. I usually prefer going for the Doran Shield myself, but Corrupting Potion is another fantastic start. For my core build, I like to go for a Sunfire Cape, Iceborne Gauntlet, and a Spirit Visage. This is going to give you a lot of tankiness with all that health from the Spirit Visage and the Sunfire Cape, and of course the armor from the Sunfire Cape and Iceborne Gauntlet, and the magic resist from the Spirit Visage. Of course, you're also going to have 30% cooldown reduction, which is going to be fantastic as well, and some nice damage from the Iceborne Gauntlet. Now, if you were, however, against a very squishy team and you didn't really need the tankiness from the Iceborne Gauntlet, you could always go for a Trinity Force. It's not something I take too much myself on Poppy. I usually prefer going for the Iceborne Gauntlet, but it is a very solid item against squishy teams. Now for my boot options, I go for Ninja Tabis against high AD teams, and Merc Treads against high AP and CC heavy teams. For the item pool, we first have a bunch of armor options in the Thornmail, Deadman's Plate, and the Randuin's. Thornmail is a really solid option to reflect damage back on the enemy team and also give them grievous wounds if there is a bunch of life-stealing champions. If you're looking for some increased mobility, Deadman's Plate is a fantastic option because of the movement speed, and a Randuin's is solid against high crit champions like a Yasuo. Of course, that slow activation is also going to help you stick onto targets. If you then needed some extra magic resistance, then I would usually go for an Adaptive Helm. It's a really solid way to add some more magic resist, and it's great against champions that spam the same ability over and over again like a Cassiopeia, Rumble, or a Rise. If you're looking for a mixture of magic resist and armor, you could always go for the Gargoyle Stoneplate. This has a really solid activation as well, which will make you take pretty much no damage at all, so it's great if you do jump into a team fight. Then if you're looking for just a really big health pool, you could always go for the Warmogs. Of course, this item also has some really nice health regeneration as well, so it's great to regenerate your health in between engagements. Then finally, a Guardian Angel is a really solid option as well. It will give you some added damage and also allow you to come back to life in the later stages of the game. For my example fill build, however, I take that core build, get some Ninja Tabis and then a Thornmail and a Deadman's Plate. You're going to be an extremely tanky champion with all that armor, health, and magic resist, and you're also going to have some decent damage because of the Iceborne Gauntlet. You're going to be a very hard to bring down champion, and you will do a surprising amount of burst damage against those squishier targets. And that's all I've got for Poppy in Season 8. If you guys enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and visit my video description below. I have a link to all my social medias, and I do also have a Discord server, so that's one you should definitely check out. But other than that, thank you guys a ton for watching. I really do appreciate it, so take it easy, have a good day, and peace.